excited that we can do something. And hopefully this will be a tradition that keeps happening. So the goal tonight, it's all about you student teachers and celebrating that you finished. And the way this is going to work is we've got this slideshow that has a slide for each student. What the students don't know is that there's also a faculty slide, faculty/cooperating teachers slide. So you all got to see yours that you filled in, but then we're going to show you also what the faculty had to say, and a faculty member is going to talk about you and say nice things. So this is all celebratory. You can clap, you can be as loud as you want since your microphones are muted. And you know, if you've got an air horn, awesome. Unlike when we're meeting in person. So Dr. Bass is going to run Erica's going to run the slideshow, and I am the MC, and we're just going to, when it's various faculty members' turn to talk, we will, you'll just unmute yourselves when you see the person's name. So let's start.
All right, here we go. We're going to start with English teaching.
And we're going to start with Allie, starting just with, you can read a lot of the slide. Allie was at Starmont and has a job already. So this is exciting. Go ahead and go to the next slide. All right. Caroline and I both, I'm the person that's in charge of talking about Allie and a memory about Allie. Allie's part of the group that was in teaching of writing in the spring of 2019 when the polar vortex happened. And at the time the polar vortex happened, we could not imagine anything harder than that. We thought, wow, this is so hard. And yet, then we had COVID. But Allie, super proud of you. Thank you. You've done a great job. And congratulations. Logan. I don't think Logan's here.
I can still say nice things about him.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Logan was in my multicultural literature class, and he had many fine moments, but what really stood out was his presentation. And of course, it was very smart. He read references to Our Lady of Alta Gracia in Junot Diaz's novel, The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. But what I really remember after nearly 2 years was his deep bass in delivery. So Logan was a leader in UNI's varsity men's glee club, and he has presence. I think this is going to be very useful to him in his teaching career.
Let's move on. Isabel. I think that's you, Erica.
That is me, yeah. So the fun thing that I like about the 3 students that I'm going to speak about today are actually all I had in the same semester, which happened to be my first semester teaching here at UNI. So it's a really fun experience to be able to speak about these students. Isabel is, you know, she's got such great enthusiasm in front of the classroom. And I just remember from the teaching of writing that she was able to take a lesson that she saw in one of her level experiences. And what she felt was kind of mundane and the students weren't really engaging with the lesson. She took that and she was able to rework that into something really fun and engaging in her teaching demonstration. And just being able to see her do that left no doubt in my mind that she was going to continue to be a fantastic teacher. And I can't wait to see all of the great things that she does.
Yay. Sarah, which, can I just say, I love these mask pictures. These are awesome. And Sarah's got a job coming up. Woo!
Yay, Sarah. Well, I also decided to focus on Sarah as well. And she was in Survey of American Lit way long ago in the spring of 2018, which really does seem like such a long time ago. But she was part of a roundtable group who were looking at an essay on Toni Morrison's Beloved. And I'd given them a choice of several essays, and the one they chose turned out to be kind of a dog essay, I must say. And they recognized that, and they switched gears and they picked a different essay by Ta-Nehisi Coates about how we remember slavery and the Civil War. And it wasn't explicitly about Beloved, but it applied really well. And they had a very smart roundtable discussion. And it was just a great example that Sarah and her group were able to be flexible and to change gears when something just didn't work in order to do something a lot better. And I think that that suggests a very promising teaching career ahead for Sarah.
Allison. Allison actually has several slides. I get to talk about Allison. And Allison has several slides because both of her cooperating teachers, and this is my favorite one. Someday, I want a Baby Yoda slide. I really do. I mean, look how cute this is. This is from one of your cooperating teachers, Allison. And I think there's another one, Erica, isn't? I think she actually has 3. So I think there's one more. Your cooperating teachers loved you, Allison, and had lots of things to say. And I could go on for one of the things that I love about Allison is that she'd send an email and I would answer the email and she was like 30 seconds later. I don't know if you lived on your email. You're just so fast answering emails and always like right on the ball, super creative. I'm so excited to see your students are super lucky in the future. I mean, worked for the North American Review. You've done all kinds of things. So super proud of you. Thank you. Jake, who I'm not used to seeing without glasses. That picture is really surprising me.
There you go. All right, make sure I'm unmuted here. So, cool. Yeah, and I was supposed to speak about Jake. I had Jake in my last semester, but I've got to write it down here. What was it? Spring of 2020. So the infamous 2020. That's when COVID hit, and Jake was in my class, my literary criticism class, where we read 1001 Arabian Nights. But Jake was we'd already had these really great philosophical conversations, and Jake sort of, talked to me about his looking at other authors like H.P. Lovecraft and kind of parsing through some of the really nasty parts of H.P. Lovecraft, but also some of the really interesting things. So what I'm going to do with Jake and the other students that I speak on, I'm going to just read some of their own words because they're the ones who we're celebrating. They're the ones who are really brilliant. So I gathered papers from each of these students, and here's Jake was writing about H.P. Lovecraft in literary criticism, and the critic and philosopher Slavoj Žižek. So he says that there's a sort of radical freedom in accepting the death of the author. It allows us to see multiple meanings in a text, and it allows us to accept multiple readings as valid. Perhaps not all are equally valid, but sound, useful, and enriching critiques can be made that reach wildly different meanings. Yes, these are reached through ideological perspectives, but as Žižek says himself, an ideological perspective is what we are limited to working with. So that was something a little bit that Jake wrote, and I'm very, very happy to see you moving forward and going through. I know, I haven't actually seen you face to face since classes stopped and we broke for the pandemic. But I'm glad that you've made that transition, and good luck to you moving forward. Very proud of you.
Nicole.
Great. Yeah, Nicole is another one that I get to speak about. So Nicole, I remember from the teaching of writing when I was working with Nicole, when she did her first teaching demonstration, she talked a lot about being and feeling vulnerable in front of students. And that's something that we talked a lot about in class. And I remember just watching her grow from her first teaching demonstration to her second one, and really willing to accept that vulnerability in front of the classroom. And, something that we really talk about in the teaching of writing and throughout, the English education program is that if you're going to ask your students to do something, you should also do that something. So if you write in the classroom, or if you ask your students to do a quick write or do a writing assignment, that you should also do that. And that's one thing that Nicole did to really show her vulnerability, is she was willing to write with her students and share that writing with her students, to show them that, that teachers and people who are supposed to be the experts also go through the same things that the novice writers do. And I think that was a really great way to show her vulnerability and really willing to be open in front of the classroom. So yeah, I think that's going to be great for her.
Danny, who has a new last name, so that's exciting too. I get to talk about Danny. Danny is, again, I feel like this group, they were in one of two teaching of writing classes. They were either in my class during the polar vortex, or they were or they were in Erica's class right before COVID started. So Danny was in teaching of writing, and when I think about Danny, I think about just really being creative and being willing to take risks with writing, which sort of became a theme for teaching of writing that semester with the multi-genre projects. And I think that willingness to be vulnerable and to take risks is going to just be so important in the classroom. Super proud of you on that. So yes, and I put it in the note, and I put it in everybody's notes. I need to know where you end up. You have to share that. So that's just a requirement. And Bridget, I get to talk about Bridget too, and Bridget's not here, which makes me sad. Bridget, I have so much, Bridget juggled a lot while she was teaching, sorry, not teaching, she was working pretty much full time while she was also taking classes full time. She worked at a pharmacy, and she worked at a pharmacy as COVID broke out. And so she would come to class with these stories about misconceptions that people had, and people coming in and coughing on her. And I mean, it was just like this drama every day. And she still, with everything that she was juggling, hung in there and did a fantastic job. And yeah, she's gonna be a great teacher. Dylan. David, this one's you.
Okay, here I am, sorry. Okay, so now Dylan, somebody was knocking on my door. I had to tell them not to come in. Dylan, I can talk a lot about, because I had Dylan for three different classes. I had him starting in critical writing about literature in fall of 2017. And then I had him and Gabby both in multicultural lit in spring of 2018. And then again, Dylan, 3 in practice for fall of 2018. So there's a whole lot that I could talk about with Dylan. But I'm not going to go at length, right? Instead, I'm going to let him and really speak for himself again by reading a little bit. If you know Dylan, you know he's really into music. He's got a great sense of pop culture and how pop culture relates to poetry and these stories and things. So I had them do in one of my classes, I had them do a literacy autobiography. And he talked to me about how he started writing songs as a kid and then kind of fell by the wayside, but he kept reading. He still was an avid reader, was reading all kinds of stories. He and his mom would talk about stories and things, but then he gets to high school and he says, in my junior year, I started getting really involved in Korean pop and rap. Singing K-pop was easy for me as I had already sang in foreign languages in choir. So it was something I could join in on. But when listening to rap, I felt inadequate. Yes, I could rap the words the rapper was saying, but I couldn't do it myself. To be a singer, you have to sing, but to be a rapper, you can't just rap. You have to be a writer also. So in my greed to master all music genres, I began writing rap. I started off very basic with simple flow and rhyme structure, staying in the kiddie zone and deathly avoiding the deep end. But as I got more serious in my first 2 years of college, I started expanding my ability, using more difficult words, unconventional rhymes, switching up my flow, doing anything I could to challenge myself. I began writing rap lyrics in all my notebooks scattered around the room with half-written songs. Through my life, I started writing music in second grade, stories in third grade, rap in senior year, but my most recent love in writing has popped up only in the last year due to my creative writing class, and that love is poetry. So you can just see this arc, and you can almost hear the sense of love of the language that he gets into. So yeah, that musical genius crosses over into literature, and I'm just so glad to have Dylan in those classes, and wish him the very best. As I said, he's truly a rock star.
Megan.
Megan. So Megan is another student that I had in the teaching of writing. And the one thing that really stood out to me about Megan is that, you know, her theater background really gives her this great teaching persona, and this presence that she has in front of the classroom, and her ability to take things like grammar instruction that students really wouldn't engage with and turn it into a fun, engaging lesson, you know, I think is just something that's going to be amazing for her future career. Her ability to take her theater experience and really blend that into her teaching is a fantastic trait to have.
I should also note she is the very first theater English double major to come through. There are a few more in the pipeline, but she's the first one. So, oh, there's another one. Yes. Gabby.
Okay, back to me. All right, and again, I had Gabby in multicultural literature, where we read one of the novels we read in that book was Linda Hogan's Mean Spirit, which is about the sort of some of the Oklahoma Territory as it was being sort of overrun and taken away from Native Americans. Oftentimes, you know, not just politically, but you know, through the discovery of oil and things like that in the early 20th century. So it could be, as the title suggests, it could be a dark story. But here's something that speaks a lot about Gabby. Something I certainly felt that Gabby still was looking for the positives in that, because if you know Linda Hogan and you know many others, there's this good contrast between light and dark in these stories. So Gabby chose to really focus on the light and Mean Spirit, and she wrote that healthy transculturation is Hogan's ideal future outcome in writing Mean Spirit, and her views on the matter disclosed in interviews support this. Somehow, Hogan says in the interview, I think that merging the two cultures in a really healthy way, not as done in the past, might be an integration in the way that we were talking about earlier. Indians have already begun that process years ago. Now I see white people integrating it that way. Hogan believes the healthy merging of two cultures is possible, and in the past, both whites and Indians have taken on this role, which goes unnoticed when people view the negative events that took place between whites and Native Americans. So again, diving deep into not only primary but secondary sources, Gabby was able to really kind of focus on some of these positive aspects, and I hope you bring that forward into your teaching, Gabby. Always look on the bright side. There's always something good to come in your way, whether you know it or not. So congratulations.
Okay. Yes. We're moving on to TESOL. Yay, TESOL. Liliane, which I think is Joyce.
It is me. And I saw her sitting there a minute ago. I have to go through the faces and keep going. I remember Lily in my bilingualism class. And what was really great about her being in that class is she's also multilingual. And she came with the perspective of a parent. And I think it was really good for the rest of the class to hear, you know, the voice of someone who was speaking, who already had a new generation, you know, coming along and being touched by a lot of the subjects we were talking about and the different things. And I remember very clearly, she sat on my right, about 3 in, and didn't have any problem contributing to the conversation, to the discussion. And this semester, even though my students were great, I loved them, there was this kind of quietude that sunk over the semester. And I remember how lively and how animated Lily was. And I, really appreciated that. And I know she's going to be a great teacher.
Molly, that's another great mask picture.
Yeah, so I'm speaking to Molly, and I know Molly from the TESOL teaching major, but she's also a double major in sociology, and she worked with TESOL Club for a long time. So I worked with her there, and as part of the TESOL Club as treasurer, when we were trying to create the spring conference happen, I think especially, and we needed instant grant proposals. Molly Borth made them happen. So we were able to get funding from the Coca-Cola Fund and NISG. She was a very good advocate for this this work that we were doing, and so was able to get the proposal to be funded. She also was involved with Inner Weather and I think Model UN. And she's been a wonderful student. And she also taught Jameen Kang's little son English and wrote about that in some of her papers, I think it was, which was fascinating to see. So she's always been very involved, a wonderful student, and I know she'll be a wonderful teacher for anyone who is equally as excited about TESOL and sociology and other content.
Callie's here, I think. This one's Elizabeth, yes?
This is for me.
Yes.
Callie, thanks for coming tonight. Félicitations. I had Callie in French 1 and French 2. I almost had her as a level 2 student before our sections got switched up. So that was going to be really cool. In any case, having you in French was just such a delight. And what I remember about you is that in French class, I asked if there were any volunteers for a community engagement activity where we would interact with the Congolese Francophone population in our community. And Callie was the first one to respond via email saying, yes, I would really like to be able to interact in French, in English with this community. And that really stood out to me. She mentioned that she was in her level 1 experience in an ESL classroom in Waterloo and had some of the children of the Congolese families in her room and already saw how that was important in our community and how French could contribute to that. And I really appreciate that she was just willing to step right out there as a French 1 student to volunteer for that. A lot of people are scared about that, but as an ESL, ELL teacher, in the future, she just jumped right in, and that just shows that she's going to be a great educator of languages. Félicitations.
Jaden. This is Eliza.
I'm sorry that Jaden's not here to share in this moment. He's a really exceptional student in so many ways. And I think what I want to share with everybody is what it was like to have somebody who is not only an emergent bilingual themselves, but an immigrant and a refugee to this country in a class where other UNI students are learning about immigrants and refugees and emergent bilinguals. So, he was quiet and thoughtful in our practicum, but never hesitated when there was something that he could contribute to push our thinking, really, as a lot of non-refugees talking about refugees. He always contributed so thoughtfully. When it came time to collaborate, he was a very, contributing member with small group work. And I think that there's something very, very special about somebody who, as a refugee, a newcomer to the country, a language learner themselves, chooses to go back into the classroom and to do that work that impacted them. So I'm really excited for the perspective that he will bring to teaching.
Jordan. I think this is also you, Eliza.
Oh, on a completely different note, I'm also excited for the work Jory is going to do in this world. When I first met Jory, I was new to UNI, and I quickly realized that she and another student were sort of the welcome wagon for me as new faculty in TESOL. I deeply appreciate her enthusiasm, her willingness to help out, to volunteer information, to suggest things, to raise her hand and say when she thought something was totally wrong or should be done differently or could be done differently. And I realize that that kind of style isn't for everybody. You know, that's not always the student we want to have in class. But when I think about that kind of student as a future teacher, advocating for marginalized populations, that's exactly who I want. I want somebody who's going to make some noise and who's going to speak up when they think that something can and should be done differently. So I'm really excited about the work that she's going to do too.
And Caitlin.
That's me. I don't see Caitlin here. If somebody else sees her, let me know. Caitlin was always one of these students who is very, very quiet. But I realized that I gauged a lot about students by watching their, their facial expressions. And even though she didn't talk a lot in class, she was engaged in small groups and things like that. But I could tell when something was, amused her or she was excited about something by her facial expressions and her, her whole being. And so when I was thinking about her, I was thinking about her face, and I was thinking about looking at her in class. And sorry she's not here. I think she'll blossom in the classroom, and I think she will be, a really special teacher.
Moving on to TESOL Spanish. Emma. This is a great slide.
Mm-hmm.
I think tengo que hablar yo de Emma. Can you hear me?
I think Emma is not here.
Okay, but just to make sure that you guys can hear me. So Emma was in my class last spring in the practicum, and it was a strange practicum because COVID hit. So it was a practicum that was that we had to really get into teaching without being in a classroom and in the middle of a pandemic. So Emma rose to the task. She appreciated very much the effort that the mentor teachers did. The schools were closed, and we had this great mentorship with 5 teachers that were all somehow UNI related. And I appreciated that Emma was able to enjoy and appreciate the experience of seasoned teachers and take them as an opportunity for her to grow. So kudos to Emma, and I hope she rocks as a teacher.
Megan. Can I just say I love this, like a normal teacher, but cooler. That's awesome.
This is for me again. Megan went on the capstone to France with the group in 2017. And it was fantastic to have her on that trip. She is a Spanish student and she became a French student. And she is an international traveler and a future teacher of languages. And that travel experience and the relationships that one cultivates while traveling internationally with others is something that is absolutely priceless. And I bet she'll get to do that with future students. She already has a job starting in January, and she is a complete rock star. Félicitations, Megan.
T-cell minors. We have a couple of these. First is Morgan. Is Morgan here? Let me look on the chat. Morgan is not here, but
I think
Jenny
I get to,
Clee is here to talk
yes,
about her.
I think I get to speak about Morgan.
Yes.
Morgan is a really hardworking person. I guess I will tell you things that you might not know about Morgan. She is a very hardworking Hy-Vee employee who knows how to herd cats, because once when she was at work at Hy-Vee, they discovered a cat in the floral department. She was also a hardworking sorority member who often held leadership positions in her sorority. But most importantly for me, of course, she was a very hardworking and dedicated student of Spanish who, among other things, has the ability to act in 2 languages. She worked as a bilingual actress with me on a group of simulations that we did about crossing the border. And she was really, again, took on a leadership role in that situation as well. She did her student teaching in Arizona, and she's already been invited to stay. So she will certainly, I hope, have a good chance to use both Spanish and English as she works in Arizona in her first teaching job. I'm sure she'll do well.
And Joy. Joy has lots of family on this. I think half of our audience is Joy's family. So that's exciting.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm talking about Joy, and I don't know Joy very well because she was a TESOL minor with an elementary ed major, and also I think it's either science teaching or math. I think it's science teaching, right? An endorsement as well. So, but she's the kind of student who always just took on a ton of stuff and did it extremely well. She was, and not only that, but she seemed to be, her colleagues describe her as one of the kindest people they've ever worked with. So she's always steps up as a leader. She's been a student leader in her college ministry. She's part of the National Society of Leadership and Success. She's in Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society. But she also does things like tutoring and is part of the International Student Organization and friends there. And she's just an all-around great person, dedicated person, and super hardworking, and just, I know only good things about her. So I hope her family is here to celebrate everything that she's accomplished so far.
Yay. And our Spanish student teacher, who is Katie, who also has family here. These mask pictures are fantastic. Gabby, this is you again.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope I just sent a chat to Katie saying hi, how are you? I had Katie a year, not a year ago, at the beginning of the year in the practicum course during the pandemic. Katie was always up to the task. She was a very good student. She was very good at planning and presenting the work. And I think she's going to have a great future. As I put in my comments, she does have the heart of a teacher. And that was one of the readings we did in the practicum as the part of vocation. And I hope that reading also touched her heart. And I do believe that she has not only the skills, but as I said, the heart of a teacher. So kudos to you, Katie. Good luck teaching. And one day I will reach out to you so that you can also mentor our teachers, pre-service teachers once again. Ciao, ciao.
And I love that phrase of the heart of a teacher, because every single one of you has the heart of a teacher. And I know I can speak for the English folks because I was also advisor, and many of the English folks I had in multiple classes, as did David. So yeah, we are just so proud of you. And you know, you just finished a marathon. Sorry, I have to do another running metaphor. Those of you that have had classes know that I always do running metaphors. But I mean, you got through, student teaching's hard anyway, and you got through it in a pandemic, and we are so proud of you. And yes, congratulations and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us, letting us celebrate this.
Yes, congratulations to everyone. Best of luck in your futures. Yay!
I know we have to do like the Zoom clappy thing, and
It's
then we do
really,
the Zoom stummies up thing, and then we
it's so nice to
wave.
see people's faces, you know, after all this time. And I know that some of you, you know, we've seen you in classrooms. Just being able to see people is so nice. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this moment with us.
Yes, and have a great rest of your, you know, rest of December, rest of career. You know, don't forget us when you're famous.
Yeah, keep in touch. Let us know how you're doing.
Thanks for organizing this, you guys. It was very nice, and I think we all, you know, we all do need. I just saw somebody say that it was nice to see all your faces. We are all connected, even if we don't feel like it sometimes. So thank you so much for organizing this. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for
Yes,
everyone.
thank you, Erica
for
and Sheila.
attending.
Yes, we will. It looks like Erica recorded it, so we'll have the recording in the PowerPoint so that you can have this. And you know, when you're having a frustrating day, you can like click back on this and go, look, I am good at this. Good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. No one wants to get off. I think this is hilarious.
It's always that weird end of the Zoom call thing, right?
Yeah.